All right, let's talk about all those facts you've heard your whole life. You know the ones. Well, today we're going to take a closer look because I'm willing to bet that some of the things you hold to be true are actually completely wrong. Let's dive in. So let's start with a big one, a piece of so-called wisdom that's so deep in our culture it might as well be a law of nature. Brace yourself because we're about to pull the rug out from under some pretty foundational beliefs. Okay, I know you've heard this a million times. From your parents, your teachers, probably everyone you know. It's like the golden rule of health, right? You gotta start your day with a good meal for focus, for energy, for everything. But is that actually true? Nope, not even a little bit. That piece of timeless wisdom, it wasn't some big medical breakthrough. It was literally invented by a marketing department to sell you cereal. So here's the real story. Way back in the day, we're talking late 1800s, this guy, John Harvey Kellogg, yep, that Kellogg, was trying to sell his new invention, cornflakes. He started pushing this idea that breakfast was essential, and wow, did it work. Other food companies jumped on the bandwagon, and before you know it, the idea was just everywhere. But here's the thing, modern science, it doesn't really agree. Study after study shows that what really matters is your overall diet and lifestyle, not what time you eat your first meal. Okay, so it's not just what we eat. Turns out some of the biggest myths out there are about the one thing you'd think we'd know inside and out, our own bodies. I mean, this one was probably on a poster in your kindergarten classroom. It feels so fundamental, right? And hey, it's an old idea. It goes all the way back to the philosopher Aristotle. Just one tiny problem. He was totally wrong. Let's just get this out of the way. We do not have only five senses, not even close. Neuroscientists have identified at least 9, and honestly, some will argue that the real number is way higher, maybe even over 20. I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got your vestibular sense, that's what keeps you balanced and stops you from just falling over. Then there's proprioception, which is how you know where your arms and legs are without having to look at them. You can sense temperature, right? That's thermoception. And you definitely feel pain. That's nociception. Without these extra senses, you couldn't even walk across a room. Oh, you know this one. It's the classic mom wisdom, right? Every single time you walk out the door in the winter, wear a hat. It just feels so logical, like your head is a big chimney just pouring out all your body heat. Well, the logic is totally flawed. This whole idea comes from this old military study from the 50s where they had soldiers in full Arctic gear, but get this, no hats. So of course they lost most of their heat through their heads. It was the only part of them that was exposed to the cold. The simple truth is heat escapes from any uncovered skin, pretty much equally. Your head is only about 10% of your body's surface area, so it loses about 10% of the heat. It's not a special heat chimney. All right, so let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about our bodies, now let's tackle some big myths from history, the animal kingdom, and believe it or not, even wartime propaganda. This has to be one of the all-time greats. The idea that just by munching on some carrots, you'll magically get night vision and be able to see in the dark like some kind of superhero? Okay, but the real story here is actually way cooler than the myth. During World War II, the British Royal Air Force developed this brand new top-secret radar technology that let their pilots spot enemy planes in total darkness. Now, to hide this huge advantage from the Germans, they started a massive propaganda campaign. The story they put out? Oh, our pilots just eat a lot of carrots. And it worked. It worked so well that people are still telling their kids to eat carrots to see better at night. All right, picture a camel. What's the first thing you think of? The hump, right? And what's in the hump? Water, of course. I mean, it's a desert animal. It's got a big storage container on its back. It just makes perfect sense. Yeah, except it's completely wrong. That hump isn't a water tank at all. It's fat. We're talking up to 80 pounds of pure fat. It's basically a giant energy reserve, like a built-in snack bar for when there's no food around. Now, camels are amazing at staying hydrated, but it has nothing to do with the hump. It's because they can drink insane amounts of water, like 40 gallons in one go, and their red blood cells are a unique oval shape that helps their blood keep flowing even when they're super dehydrated. The hump is for food, not for water. You can see it in your head, can't you? The snarling pirate captain, the poor victim trembling, the slow, dramatic walk down a wooden plank over shark-infested waters. It's maybe the most iconic pirate thing ever. Great for movies, but terrible history. See, real pirates weren't actors in a play. They were criminals running a business, and time was money. They didn't have time for slow, elaborate punishments like making someone walk the plank. That's just wildly inefficient. If they wanted you gone, they'd just stab you and throw you overboard. It was fast, it was simple, and honestly, probably just as terrifying. The whole walk the plank idea, pure fiction, made popular by books and movies way, way later. Okay, so we've busted a lot of myths, which leads to the big question, right? Why do these things stick? Why do we keep believing them, even when all the evidence points the other way? If you think about all the myths we've talked about, you start to see a pattern. These aren't just random mistakes. They actually follow a kind of formula that makes them super easy to believe and really, really hard to forget. It really boils down to three simple things. First, they just sound true. They're plausible. Of course you lose heat through your head. Of course a camel stores water in its hump. Second, we hear them from people we trust, our parents, our teachers, you name it. And finally, it's just repetition. You hear that we have five senses enough times, and your brain just accepts it as a fact. It becomes true just because you've heard it so often. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that a lot of the facts we live by are really just good stories that are too sticky to die. And that kind of leaves you with the final question, doesn't it? If all of these incredibly common beliefs are wrong, what other facts do you accept every day without a second thought? What will you question next?